Hello, this is Phil Wagoner. I'm here today with the latest edition of my podcast, Raising Godly Children in an Ungodly World. In it, I'm interviewing young men and women who have gone through or are currently in the last 2 years of high school or college, or are new to navigating the world as an adult. These are young people who have kept their faith in God through the social and mental pressures that affect us all, especially young adults who are trying to find their niche in life. I want to know how they did it and are continuing to do it as they go from one step to the next in life. Then, when possible, we'll talk to their parents and get their perspective on their involvement. And at the end, I'll expound on a scripture from the Bible that talks about parenting. Welcome to part 2 of Josh and Abby's interview. In part 1, we heard a powerful testimony from Josh about his secret pornography addiction and how it affected him and his family. In this week's episode, we will hear how Abby reacted to all of it, the rebuilding of Abby's trust in Josh, and how their marriage slowly became stronger because of God's grace in their life.
And before I knew it, I was months in without pornography. I was months, and then I was years, and now I haven't for I don't know how many years, 7, 8 years now. And I'm like, this is impossible to me. I didn't just buck it up, Sally, and bite your lip and try hard and quit the addiction. No, you teach somebody who they are, because every addictive behavior is attached to a low self-esteem. But if you can get them to believe who God says they are, their esteem rises, and they say, I am made for so much more than that.
Okay, Abby, that's quite a story. Were you aware of any of this?
No. So he said his addiction started at 12. We started dating when he was 15, and we got married when we were 20, and I didn't know any of this ever. And I would ask him point blank, have you looked at pornography before? Do you have that realm? Because as a 16-year-old girl, they talk about it in school. It's talked about a lot, pornography, blah, blah, blah. And I just always asked him point blank, have you ever looked at anything? He's like, no, I don't. Just for you, just eyes for you. Okay.
Yeah,
So you're a liar, not only.
No, I would, because it was a total secret thing. Nobody knew.
I understand.
My parents didn't know. Nobody knew it. I hid it really well.
I wasn't trying to throw you under the bus.
No, it's totally cool.
No, that's.
I ruined her birthday.
My 21st birthday.
Yeah.
He told me we were on our way home from my birthday dinner, and he's like crying, driving home. I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong? I thought our night was fine, and he's like, I have to tell you something. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that could be. Go ahead.
So were you still, now don't preach on this.
Okay,
this is a simple question.
Yes or no?
Okay.
Were you still addicted at that point?
At that point, I had probably been a month or more free.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, go ahead, Abby.
So then he said, well, I have to tell you something. And I was like, okay, well, go for it. And he's like, it's kind of like it's a big thing. I was like, oh my gosh, what? Like, I don't know what could possibly it be. And he's like, I just want to let you know, I've been addicted to pornography my whole life. And I was crushed. Immediately I was crushed. As a woman, you feel insufficient. You feel like you can't rise to the expectation. I will just plainly admit, and this is my God honest truth, I've never watched pornography before. Never had grid for it. Not my thing. But as a male, anyway, regardless. So I just knew about how destructive it was. Pornography to young men, to older men, to married men, to all ages of men and women. Women can be captivated by it as well. I was not. But like I said, I was just completely undone. He had lied to me for all those years, and I didn't know how to come back from that. And so I feel like our life, we were married at that point. But
Did you have any kids?
No, no kids yet. But I felt like our sexuality was definitely altered from then on for a while. Yeah. Because I just felt like, why do you need me if you have that? Yeah. And I didn't know. He was like, I'm free. But I'm like, okay, well, now you're a liar, so I don't believe you. So there was,
wow.
I didn't believe him.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why do you need me?
So you guys had some work to do.
Yeah.
And that was very early on. We were married for a year.
Yeah.
I finished that sentence. You had some work to do on your marriage on several levels.
Several levels, yeah.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest one in our marriage that we've had.
Away.
When I dropped that right off the ball, but I was extremely convicted. The Lord said, "You need to tell her, and I want you to tell her now." And because He just kept showing me that if I don't ever get this thing out in the light and nobody knows, it has more power. And if you just speak about it now, it kind of breaks the chains of it's all secret stuff. And you get it out there and you say, but the Lord has set me free from it. Because he did at that point. And there was no going back because I really didn't have a desire anymore. And I knew I was truly free.
Wow. Okay. So now you said something earlier, Abby, that their girls are addicted to it too?
I mean,
In high school?
I mean, I can't speak from personal experience, but right now in my life as a young female adult, this has only come to light, honestly, for me probably in the last year, but I see a lot of young girls and young women, even older women, reading these books. And I didn't know really, I don't read. And so then a conversation was happening at my workplace not that long ago, honestly, about the content of these books. They are dirty, lustful books about women reading about these men in this very ungodly setting, just about men being a sexual figure, basically. And dirty, smutty books is what people describe them as. Well, I like to read smutty books. To me, that's pornography in your mind. Because as you're reading it, your mind is painting a picture. You don't even have to be physically looking at a photo. You're reading it and your mind is picturing it. Josh and I have talked about it a lot. You think about if you say something, pink elephant, okay, I'm automatically, everyone's picturing a pink elephant without you actually physically seeing a pink elephant.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like pornography has lots of different complexes.
Yeah.
So
it's just a fantasy land. You go to a fantasy land, whether you're looking at the thing or whether you're reading the book about it, and it's all just twisted and perverted.
Okay, I asked Josh what advice he would give to a 16-year-old boy.
That's it, man. That's what I would tell him.
What advice would you give to a 16-year-old girl?
To a 16-year-old girl, well, if I had to think back at myself at 16 years old, looking back at it now, I was immature, obviously. I think that teenagerism is very hard because everything is the biggest situation in your life ever when you're a teenager. Everything that's happening is the biggest thing ever, and no one understands, and you're just a ball of emotions, if you will. But you don't see that until you're an adult. So if you're a teenager listening, I get it. I was there. But I think that my advice to young girls, teenage girls, would be to not seek boys for your self-esteem, because they're just going to drag it worse, honestly. I mean, I'm not saying that you can't date someone in high school. That's not my grid to say you can't date in high school. And I get it that not everyone marries their high school sweetheart. If I would have done things differently, I wouldn't have married my high school sweetheart. So I just feel like keep yourself in a clean place. And when I say that, I'm saying I, as a Christian teenager, had certain boundaries for myself that I wouldn't cross, and I would make my boundaries much stricter. Now, being an adult, there are certain things that I was comfortable doing that wouldn't make me feel as dirty, but then you still felt terrible after you did it. So it's like, why even make that grid? Yeah. Start clear back. Just say, you know what, I'm not even going to kiss a boy till I'm married. Because all it does is drag down your self-esteem. As soon as you hype it up, you kiss them, and then you feel just as dirty. Like, I shouldn't have done that. So I just feel like to
keep your conscience clean and the convictions that you have at the, whatever age you are.
Yeah, I agree.
So you say you would have, because earlier I got the impression that your parents set some pretty strict
Oh, they were super strict, yeah.
guidelines. But you say you would have, so those weren't your ideas.
No.
But you accepted them, or
No.
to a certain
extent. I mean,
But so what are you talking about? You would set stricter boundaries for yourself.
As far as being alone with a boy. Like
Okay, so when they told you not to do that, you
My
did
mom-
it anyway, but now you're
Right.
saying
My parents pretty much, like, sex was not talked about in our home at all. Ever. Like, it just was not talked about. And I feel like in this day and age, sex is talked about in literally, I mean, it's on books, it's on social media, it's on TV. I mean, you can watch any TV show and there's going to be a smutty scene.
Right.
So it's like sex is talked about everywhere. But yet when it comes to parents talking about sex with their kids, why is it something that's not talked about? And I'm not saying that that's in every home. That was just my personal experience. My parents didn't talk to me about it. And whether that be because they didn't even have a full understanding of it, like, I'm not faulting my parents in any way. They did the best that they could. But I feel like sex should be talked about more from a biblical standpoint, because if it's not being talked about biblically, it's being talked about out there by the world, and then you're just being impressed from a bad impression.
Yeah.
You know, I really don't know where to go with this.
Sorry, I know. I'm
No,
sorry.
don't be sorry.
Yeah.
This has been great. I feel like I've been unprepared for
No,
this.
you're good.
You know,
Yeah.
I guess I'd like to invite you back and maybe try a different
Yeah,
different
yeah.
direction.
Yeah, you're good. Apparently, it just keeps going here, but I just felt like we were gonna go
No.
here even before we got here for some reason.
Well, that's,
Just I don't know. I mean,
I think. All right, let me preach a little bit.
yeah,
I think that the parents that I'm trying to reach are parents of are people, all the parents, but mainly of them that don't understand entirely what's going on in kids' lives today.
yeah,
I'm sure of that because I like I said, I drive a school bus
yeah,
and I listen.
yeah.
I'm a good listener, and I hear what's going on, and I can see, one of my rules to live by is if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and quacks, it's a duck. I don't care if it quacks bow wow, it's still a duck.
Yeah.
And so and again, that's usually a pretty truism. So I we're trying to reach parents and let them know this is what's going on in your kids' lives.
Yeah.
This is what you need to be addressing, and we've done that.
Yeah.
And it's not a lollipops and give them more ice cream and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
So I like the way we've gone with this. I think it's been great. We're probably going to have to break it up if we can into two
Yeah.
different segments. But thank you both for coming.
Yeah.
Or being here, and I appreciate your honesty and your forthrightness. Josh, I'm going to give you a chance to say the last thing that's on your mind.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. But I honestly think, like, for parents that are wondering what's going on in their kids' lives, and maybe you don't have a full grasp on what they're thinking or the thoughts that are going through their head, I would say if you don't know it yourself, you can't really give it to somebody, So seek the Lord intimately. Let Him change your life in a way where you're impacted by Him, that you're excited about God, that you're not just going through the motions and trying to pretend to be Christian, but you're truly excited in your heart about the relationship that you have with the Lord. And I feel like that will impact your kids alone, but also praying for them to encounter Him, to have an encounter that changes their heart or just gets them to taste the goodness of who He is. Because once you taste and see that He is good, nothing else even comes close to measuring up to that in the world. No matter what they're tasting, once they taste Him, nothing else tastes that good. So I just pray that over everybody here that's listening, that we would taste the Lord and know that He is good, and that all those things that seem to be good would fall away and become distasteful completely. In Jesus' name.
Abby,
Yeah.
what do you say to that? Obviously you agree, but I'm hoping you agree anyway.
I agree.
But what would you add to that? I guess what I'm looking for is, I've got a situation in my life right now where I'm dealing with two people. One of them raised a very devout Christian, and one of them has no clue. Good people, good kids. They're wanting to get married. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it, and he doesn't get it because he's never been raised in it. So what do you say to the parents that are out there that are listening to this? Because I know there are a lot that about educating your kids and educating yourself. What do you do? You said that you weren't allowed to go to Josh's church because it was not a life-giving church.
Yeah.
So, what do you?
What do you do as a parent, or what do you do as a?
Well, yeah, as a parent, Josh has made it clear you've got to
Be an example.
be an example for your kids. But what if you don't know what that example is? What if you think they are being, all right, let me put it this way.
Yeah.
If you're a parent, you're an example to your kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you look like Jesus?
Yeah.
That's what I'm
But
saying.
either way, he's saying either way,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
an example.
Yeah,
Whether
it's
you look
true.
like him or
It's
you
true.
don't, you're an example to your
So
Yes,
how do you
yeah.
get to, what do you say to them how do you find the life-giving church? Let's go with that definition. What's a life-giving church compared to not a life? You said before that life-giving churches bring change in your life.
Right. I just feel like I sound like a broken record, but if you're going to a church and you're continuing to drink, you're continuing to cuss, you treat your family badly, like.
But what if that's okay with you?
You look like the world.
It's
You
not
know what I mean?
okay.
Yeah. It's not okay according to the word, but if you don't value the word and what you create, who Jesus says you are.
Value the word.
Yeah. If you're not valuing what God says, then you really have no grid for any of that.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
hard. I guess that's a really hard question for me because I would have to like.
I would say it's the
Go
light.
way back.
The light that's in you is eventually going to draw those people to say, how do you live the way that you do?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So the Christians that are there,
Yeah. Yeah.
turn your light up.
Yeah.
And-
Get intimate. Get
and-
intimate
With
with
the
the Lord. And don't let what the spouse
and-
is doing the other
and-
person
and
determine.
Then love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah. Get intimate
Yeah, that
with
was
him.
pretty good.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was good. I'm going to say that again. That's you love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
Is if you feel like you need to grow in God.
Yeah.
I mean, we heard a message this morning on growing and
Yeah.
growing and maturing in spiritual maturities.
Yeah.
Maturing
Yeah.
in the things of God. Loving your neighbor would be you maturing in the things as yourself would be maturing in the things
true.
of God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we're going to quit.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's good.
Because
I got more, but I'm like,
all right,
if we
you
would
know
have
what?
stopped, we stopped, man.
We'll do it again. I
Yeah.
promise you, we'll do it again. Maybe even the next time. But for right now,
Yeah.
we got a lot of stuff to get through
Edit.
and stuff.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having us. Thank
Well,
you.
I really do. I love you guys. I've loved your wife for longer than you have,
I
probably.
love her too. Yeah, it's true. I finally found out how to love her.
Praise the Lord. Well,
Yeah.
thank you everybody for listening. We'll be back again in probably 2 weeks. Thank you. That's our podcast for the day. Thanks for listening. If you're interested in a daily devotional, we have what we call the Word to Live By that goes out every morning. To have that sent to you on a daily basis, send me an email at pbwags@gmail.com. That's pbwaggs@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.